Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.
Hi, it's Rita at the Travel Nurse channel. Today is Tuesday and it's the end of March. It's March 30th. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. No, it's not the end of March. Tomorrow will be the last day of March. And this is Rita at the Travel Nurse channel. A little late today. I apologize. I pre-recorded early and was not effective. So I hope you catch me. I'm going to put up my stream comments if you want to check in. But normally we're here on Tuesdays from 10 to 11. Today we're here from 12:20 to 1:20, or as long as it takes to chat with you and answer questions. So I apologize. I had a meeting with my mom this morning and started late, ended late. It didn't work out. I mean, it worked out with my mom, but it didn't work out with, okay, there I go. I am touching. Go ahead and wash my hands. Always wash your hands, especially if you touch anything. So, Travel Nurse channel, we're back. I try to connect with all travel healthcare workers. So we say Travel Nurse channel, but we're not isolated to just nurses or sponsors, and we are understanding and respectful of all healthcare workers that travel, and that includes doctors, nurses, special procedures, technicians and therapists, various levels, from the highly credentialed to all areas. There are travel positions for all areas of healthcare: CNA, LVN, RN, ICU, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, and more, and more. So we are here for all of you. Our sponsors need all of you. And some of our sponsors are actually branches of needed services for travelers, such as housing. So there are some sponsors there. You may see them on Facebook. We are here every week. We have been for quite some time. I hope you find us. And we are also on YouTube, and so we're archived. If you miss an episode, don't worry. If Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time doesn't work for you, you can just check in anytime you like, either on Facebook or YouTube. Maybe other places that I'm not aware of. I don't know. I don't Twitter, so I don't know. But anyway, today I thought a topic to talk about is what you might like, what you probably will like about travel. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on with travelers right now throughout the States. We are a full year, more than a full year, since the announcement, at least, you know, as far as I know, that we were in a pandemic. So we're still in a pandemic. There are some surges going on, I believe, Maryland. I don't know about Florida, but after watching some of TV, I'm thinking, could be. Now, these surges sometimes make people ill, but aren't as deadly. But there are new strains of the COVID. You know, I think there's something called the Brazil, or anyway, so it's still something to be very cautious about. It's still something that's affecting you if you are in the workplace, if you're on a travel assignment. So I think it bears talking about where those jobs are, what's going on in the country, and how it may relate to you and your current travel, or you're considering travel, etc. I'm itchy. Don't ask me why. I live in a dry climate. I guess it could be drier. It's not the desert, but sorry. So let's see. Let's start with why you might like to travel. What might make your travel experience special? And I am talking to people that have traveled, that think about traveling, are still traveling or maybe are new to travel, and that may include some newer nurses. So that door was really closed for a long time to newer nurses, new grads, newly licensed nurses and therapists. That door has kind of hinged a bit. And so and I talked about this recently, I think as recently as last week, that there are positions there, travel positions, staff positions, all kinds of positions now opening up for newer nurses who are also talented. And it just depends on what your knowledge base is, what the employer is able to offer as far as training, mentoring, etc. So newer nurses, this channel is for you as well. There are several companies out there that specialize in using the newer nurses, as well as the seasoned, I like to say the seasoned, or what is that word? Chronic serial nurses. Anyway, so every classification of RN, LVN, CNA, doctors, therapists, techs, I'm talking to all of you. Lots and lots of opportunities. And why you might like it, I wrote a few things down because I'll spend a little time on each one. But I think that these are some of the top reasons why you might find a travel assignment pleasant. Okay? So I think there's some of the top reasons. I hope I haven't left anything out. But collaborativeness. You might find an atmosphere that is very collaborative between departments. Educative is almost certainty that you will be learning something wherever you go, and maybe teaching something too. Positive experiences, maybe not all, but they could be, the assignment is super positive. You know, you thought, well, we'll go into detail on that. Assignments can be super positive experiences. Location, the area you're visiting could be super positive experience, and the team you're working with. Respected, having your profession and your knowledge and your technique and who you are and what you're about respected, and surprisingly, your own adaptiveness. All reasons why you might find traveling a terrific experience. So let's expand a little bit on the first one, collaborativeness. So it depends on what environment you're in, long-term, acute, subacute, clinic. You may have been in an environment similar to the one you're on travel assignment. You may have been a student. You know, maybe you have a background in science, or you worked in a lab, you decided nursing was for you, maybe you were an educator, and your various work and educative experiences may have had you in a collaborative environment and may not have. Some leaders will encourage a lot of independent work, right? So it may have been you were your self-manager, you took the ball and ran with it, regardless of what environment, whether you were an ICU nurse or a school nurse. You may have experienced not so much not collaborativeness, but the experience of being self-sufficient, self-managed, and that may have worked for you. Hey, somebody just checked in. Hi, Gollum. Good to see you as well. You put his little flag there. Gollum is saying hello all the way from Bangladesh. And he is a tech friend. Do a lot of tech work with him from the Travel Nurse channel. And it's always good to see you. Maybe you could check in sometime and we could chat online. Your feelings about travel nursing. Thanks for checking in, Gollum. So collaborativeness might be a very pleasant experience when you travel, because it may be something you crave, it may be something you have experienced in your previous work experience, or it may be different. It may be not what you experienced, that you were this sort of self-starter. Okay, I have an aching toe, so I'm going to put it on a stool without trying to mess up my wires. Okay, so whether it's new to you or something you love and crave and are accustomed to, collaborativeness between departments, excuse me, between, say, the lab and the nursing, or the nursing and the radiology, or the doctors and the nurses, the PAs and the nurses, department to department, ER to ICU, ICU to long-term. That collaborativeness can provide a really wonderful travel experience. And I've spoken to nurses that were surprised by it because they assumed they would be the outsider. I'm not saying that can't happen. That can happen. I've talked about that on previous episodes. It's like, oh, you're a traveler, just deal with it. And nobody would tell you where, to send a specimen or to find an item or send a message or whatever. Another item that may make your travel experience a really good one is the educative part of it. The educative part of it is that, say you're a nurse and you've been a nurse for 15 years or 20 years, or you're a tech or a therapist, been doing it for quite a while. You think, I've seen everything, done everything. You may learn something, or you may learn a new way of doing something. I mean, it's 2021. I started my nursing career in the 1970s. So, I don't like those flashes. I hope our broadcast is strong. Anyway, at any rate, the educative piece can be a really pleasant experience for you when traveling. That may be what you like. It may be unexpected. So there's another piece. Other positive experiences I sort of lump together just because not always are you going to find them all, but there's always something that's going to be positive. So that's over here. Let me see. Over here. So maybe the assignment was a float assignment and you love step down. You found that niche. You were over the ICU. You found step down, or in some cases they call it step down progressive care unit. No, progressive post-acute care unit, PACC or PACU, not to be confused with post-operative PACU. But at any rate, I call it step down or intermediate care in between the critical care and acute care. So that may be your baby, but when you went on assignment, they said, we really need you to float. And the float assignment will be between telemetry, step down, and critical care. And you're like, oh, you anticipate that with great trepidation, and find out that that assignment was one of your favorite assignments. Every day was slightly new and slightly different. You found out that you were pretty good at it. You found the collaborativeness of the interdisciplinary collaborativeness. And so the assignment turned out to be great. Maybe the assignment wasn't your favorite assignment, but maybe you went to a location, a surprising location. Maybe you're from Florida, the Sunshine State, and you went to work in Connecticut and you had no idea Connecticut was so beautiful. I keep seeing these flashes. No, we're still live. Okay, sorry about that. I'm so easily distracted. And you found Connecticut, oh, it had bays and seashores and beaches and boating and trees and beautiful, beautiful state of Connecticut that people hardly ever think about, an East Coast state, one of the East Coast states. And we're pleasantly surprised by the area. Another positive experience you may not have expected was the way you were treated by the team. That the team really welcomed you, which is going to lead us right into the next area why you might really like traveling, is the respect you get. I've heard nurses talk about arriving for their assignments, getting their orientation, which never seems to be enough. You never feel quite ready. Or if you're a seasoned traveler, you're like, oh, I've heard it all before. But the respect you get. So some of the leadership now are doing these quick meetings, you know, stand-up meetings or isolated meetings where you meet with one or two members of the team, maybe your charge nurse, the supervisor, or two people working on your unit are called in, and you have a brief meeting because you both admitted and they want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, and they asked you, what did you see? What did you glean? What would you like to do? What would be your next steps? Who do you need to talk to? What was your impression of this trauma patient? What was your impression of this patient with diabetes? They respect your knowledge, your assessment. They want your input, as it should be, but doesn't always happen that visibly. And that respect is so important in how you're going to, you know, continue to behave and how you're going to operate. And then I put 5 as a really terrific one that sometimes may surprise you, particularly if it's the first time you're traveling, or if you've had some travel assignments and some were up and some were down and you felt like, is it me? And you go to an assignment, a new travel assignment, and you just feel like you just fit in like a glove. You know, all those other pieces were there. There's some really positive pieces to the assignment, like you liked the area. You may have really liked the dwelling that you were in. Maybe you decided to have a roommate and really enjoyed the roommate. Somebody is saying, can you describe a hands-on encounter with a trauma patient? Sure, sure. I was not really an ER nurse, but I did do some urgent, I've done all kinds of nursing, but not ER, and but a lot of ICU and so forth. So I can speak from that if somebody wants to hear about that. You wouldn't be checking in if you didn't. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But many, many reasons that you might like to try traveling. Many, many reasons. And that last one is about you, that you didn't realize you were going to be so adaptive, and that you adapted beautifully and well to the assignment. So hands-on experience with a trauma patient. Well, my experiences with trauma and so forth were usually second. I would be the second team coming in from maybe the ER into the special procedures. So we would have maybe a trauma patient that, not trauma so much, it would be more cardiac. Describe a hands-on encounter with a trauma patient. See, that is really a question for emergency department nurses, TNCC nurses, urgent care to a degree. And I have, you know, done a little bit of OR, perioperative and PACU, postoperative. So I'm trying to think of my hands-on. Personally, I'm a calamity, so I've had a lot of injuries myself. And I'll say one thing about trauma and injuries is, if you have consciousness, if you can describe your pain, how you're feeling, the more communicative you can be about that would be really helpful. But some trauma patients, there is not that option. They may not be conscious, or they may, depending on where the trauma is, if it's a head trauma, face trauma, neck trauma, they may not be able to express themselves. We try for whatever we can when we're dealing with trauma patients. And I'm just thinking of patients in general, because of all the things I've done in nursing, and I've loved them all, I didn't get into the ER per se. With my family members, yes. And I'm trying to think of any of them with trauma. My brother broke his arm pretty terribly one time. And I have to say, I was a little giddy. I was young. I was just thinking about, I was towards the end of my high school experience and thinking about nursing school. And he fell down the stairs into the dog poo. And I was a little giddy trying to help him. I had to cut his shirt off. He was in a lot of pain. And it's not real trauma. But with trauma, the team is addressing, of course, the ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation, cardiac. I have had instances in my ICU experience where I had to resuscitate. I've had personal experiences as a pedestrian resuscitating people and providing CPR, effective CPR. Effective CPR now is really, really improved with what we know about cardiopulmonary effective compressions, and the AED, the defibrillator, is just made it, our success rate jump by, I don't know, as soon as I renew my BLS and ACLS, I'll be able to tell you specifically what the ratios, how much percentages we've improved with our very effective life support and cardiopulmonary resuscitation. We have really improved a lot. So hands-on encounter with a trauma patient. Have I had direct? It's been a while, guys. My more recent experiences were family members, stroke, cardiac injuries. My aunt, very frail, elderly, took quite a injury to her face. She did not see, you know, those stone in the parking places and in some of the parking structures and parking lots. You pull into a spot and then there's a cement. It's about 6 or 8 inches high, and she didn't see it. You know, her gait was so unsteady and she wasn't using her walker, and she just went down and hit her face. Poor little thing. My aunt was really petite. So her face was traumatized. I was traumatized when I found her. And, you know, I told my mom, call 911, met them in the ER. So I guess hands-on with a trauma patient, even though I'm not an ER nurse, I'm not TNCC certified, is assessment and action. So your knowledge of what to do when it's a cardiac situation, what to do when it's a bleeding situation, you know, first moves, ABCs, get them some oxygen however you can, ambuing if necessary, masking if necessary, if there's some disruption to the nose, assessing how they're breathing, listening to see if different areas of the lungs are being perfused with air. I hope that answers your question a little bit, since I'm not a trauma nurse per se, but thanks for asking. So what else did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk a little bit about where the work is for people still in a pandemic and where it's gone from about a year ago to today. So surprising assignments have occurred all across the nation. Desirable assignments usually are, say, somebody from the Midwest considering Hawaii. Yes, there are assignments in Hawaii. Or California, the beautiful state of California that offers lots of sunshine in Southern California and beaches, Santa Barbara, San Diego, San Francisco, great metropolis, San Francisco, also coastal. Yosemite, some of the beautiful parks of California. I just recently visited Avila, which is on the way, it's past Santa Barbara, but before Pismo Beach. Beautiful little community, Avila. At any rate, a lot of people might think, oh, I want to go to California, or I want to go to Hollywood. And lots of work in California. But surprisingly positive assignments occur on the East Coast as well. Massachusetts, lots of assignments there. The New England states, Connecticut, I already mentioned, surprising. Actually, right now, I think, maybe not so much now, but at the beginning of the pandemic, Maryland, close to Washington, D.C., The capital is Baltimore, I believe, and a lot of city, a lot of commerce. Baltimore was going to be our capital way back in the founding fathers. They did consider Baltimore, but DC wound up being the capital of the United States. But lots of surprising assignments that you don't necessarily think of off the bat. You might think of the Sunshine State, Florida. And yes, many, many assignments, many diverse assignments in the state of Florida, but lots of other states have assignments that you might not think. Maine, one of the New England states. So there's that. There's all these assignments. And where is the work? Well, the work is kind of everywhere. Of course, in the beginning, the COVID patients were ICU patients primarily. Still, most of the COVID patients that are being admitted are very, very sick, and they go to the ICU. They require a lot of proning. They require a lot of medical care, cardiac care, pulmonary care, exhaustive care for the team. So the ICU has been busy, is still busy, but as things change in the nation and some of our numbers are going down, not only the number of cases, but certainly the number of deaths. San Diego has been doing really well. Right now we have a surge with young female adults that have come into San Diego and are testing positive. But they're not showing symptoms necessarily, the younger people, thank God. But of course, we don't want to spread. We don't want it to spread, so we're doing everything we can with that, with vaccinations and so forth, and isolation as best we can with migrants coming into the state. But areas that closed about a year ago, because the need was for that staff to help if they could in any way in the ICU. I mean, some staff were coming from PACU, some were coming from the OR and the perioperative areas, and they were helping in the lab. They were helping in the ICU. They were helping where they were needed. They were closing some of those units to have more ICU beds. So all of that is changing now. We are needing more perioperative, operative, and PACU nurses. We've always needed our ICU. It's always going to be ICU, ICU, ICU needs, and NICU, NICU, and PICU, pediatric ICU, pediatric critical care nurses, always in demand. But those other areas are starting to get as busy as they once were, and those are the GI lab, the interventional radiology units, the cardiac cath lab, and the ORs. They're getting quite busy again as well. Long-term facilities are busy, busy, busy. Hospice is busy. Case manager needs. Lots and lots of areas and venues for our travelers. So plenty of work, and hopefully an experience that you will like and provide some or all of these pieces to the assignment. The collaborativeness you find between departments, the respect you find from your supervisors and from other members of the team, that they actually respect what you're doing and your skills and your talents. And I did speak a little bit about newer nurses. Anyway, I hope you saw that. I don't want to keep reading. Yeah, the adaptiveness that you find in yourself that you didn't expect. Maybe having a really super great assignment after maybe not such a good one, or a location that surprised you, like Connecticut. You wanted to go to California. They offered you Connecticut. You took it, and it turned out great. It's a beautiful state. Team members that you maybe made lifelong friends. During the early pandemic, I talked about a nurse that was a relatively new ICU nurse, and she went to New York City, never considered traveling, never considered going to New York City. I forget where she was from, maybe one of the southern states, Alabama, and made lifelong friends in New York. She talked about the cheering in the streets when she was getting ready to go in for the night shift. It's kind of really special, emotional, good stuff. And the educative piece, the seasoned nurse or the newer nurse that is just fresh from school with tons of knowledge. Her head's like her head, this big from all the knowledge they've received, all the clinical experiences, and or The nurse that's been doing it for 20 some odd years finds a new, better way to do it, or something completely new to her store of knowledge. So many positive experiences can occur. And I'm not hearing from too many people. It's almost 1 o'clock. I will let you all go. I will try to provide some input from either professors or other nurses or recruiters. I welcome you all. Maybe one of our sponsors will jump in and chat when we're live. This is Rita at the Travel Nurse Channel. You can email me, Rita, R-I-T-A, at travelnursechannel.com, Rita at travelnursechannel.com. You can call me anytime. If you want to become a sponsor, it's very, very inexpensive, and we reach thousands and tens of thousands, maybe more, nurses every week. Because even though we're live on Tuesdays, we're constantly on Facebook and YouTube. Or you can call 800-737-6518 anytime. Doesn't matter. If I'm asleep, I'll get to you as soon as I wake up. But I don't go to sleep all that early, and I get up pretty early. So anytime you feel like calling, wherever you're calling from, no problemo. And so I hope you'll find something you like about traveling, and many, many others before you have. And I hope you find that there is potential in even considering traveling, and lots of tips on who to talk to and what to consider before you travel if it is on your mind. And you can call or email me and give you more tips, but I can only get so much in an hour or so. So there you go. Thanks so much for tuning in. I apologize for being late today. Our normal time is Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 11, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We tuned in late today, close to 12, but my mom needed me, and that all ran a little bit late. So, okay. And don't you worry, newer nurses, there are jobs for you too in the travel field, in lots and lots of environments. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end with a little commercial. Thanks a lot. See you next week.
Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.